In this video, we're going to talk about the worst seats on a plane. Welcome to the Average Me channel. I'm Mark, and in this video, we are going to talk about the worst seats on a plane. So next time you're flying, you have a little bit of information on what you might look out for when you're making your seat selection. Now, I'm going to say right out of the gate, I am talking specifically to an A321. But seats are similar if you're flying Southwest. The 737s, either the 800 or 700, are very, very similar. So a lot of things are going to carry over. But more importantly, when you're looking at that seat map, this is going to give you an idea of what the seat's going to look like before you make that seat selection. So the seats in particular that I'm talking about that are the very worst seats are the exit row seats. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, what are you talking about, Mark? Those are fantastic seats. I'm going to talk about the good and the bad. And along with this, we're also going to talk about the bulkhead seats. The bulkhead being that very first row where you have the wall in front of you, because many of the components of the bulkhead seats are the same as the exit row. So let's get started. I'll just address the elephant in the room. Some people think these seats are great, and there's really only one reason that people like these seats, maybe two. And the big one is legroom. And I have to agree that there is a lot of legroom in the exit row seats, and in many cases in that bulkhead row, the number one first row. That's about the only benefit to sitting in that row. Sometimes instead of 3 seats, there will only be 2. So if you're traveling with a companion, it's nice to not have that third person in your row. Aside from that, we are going to talk about all of the negatives of sitting in that exit row seat. So let's start with the seat itself. Because of the very nature, the purpose of an exit row is that people can move in and out of that row if there's an emergency to get to the emergency exit. But because of that, the seats are designed differently. So your table is going to come out of your armrest instead of coming down from the seat in front of you. The reason being because the seat in front of you is going to be so far away. Now, sometimes they will still leave that table on the seat in front of you. Sometimes it's going to be removed. There's no rhyme or reason to why they do it. Different airlines, different planes are going to be configured just a little differently. But if you do have the table coming down from the seat in front of you, they're still going to have the table in the armrest because you're simply not going to be able to use that table. It's so far away. So what's wrong with having the table come out of the armrest? Well, 3 things. Number 1, because it comes out of the armrest, your seat is going to be real narrow. You're like sitting in a box. And I'll tell you what, if you're a small person, that might not make a difference. But if you are, I would say 200 pounds or heavier, that is a tight seat, and it's uncomfortable for any length of time. Now, the second thing about that table coming out is it's going to be folded in half. It's hinged right in the middle. So that table will sometimes kind of collapse on one side. And I have seen people put drinks on there and it slides right off and falls to the ground because the table, it kind of folds over and then it flips into the seat. So that's the second thing. The third thing is those tables are so close to you. They're very, very impractical. If you want to put, let's say, your computer to do some work, you are looking directly down almost. And if you're a person of any size, like I said, I'm over 200 pounds and that table is pushing right up against my body. Now, if you're a real slender person, that might not make a difference, but you want to be aware of it. And it just is not a real practical table. Now, another thing, and you will see this in the A321, this was a Delta flight that I recently took. They did not have the entertainment console. They didn't have the screen on the seat in front of you. So when they gave the preliminary talk, the safety talk, when everyone else was watching that on the screen in front of them, we were watching that from one little screen that came down from the ceiling, and we watched it and then it retracted, which meant we did not get to take advantage of the in-flight entertainment. Now, in my case, it didn't matter that much because I've been flying for the past decade and I always have some entertainment loaded onto my phone or my iPad. But you're still missing out. This is something that is a perk or a benefit of flying with the airline, and now you're not going to be able to take advantage of it. Here is a second thing that was kind of weird related to that. Now, a lot of people have Bluetooth wireless headphones. Of course, that's only practical if you're using your own personal device. If you want to connect to the in-flight entertainment, you need to use some plug-in headphones. You can bring your own, but they were going down the aisle and they were passing them out. And of course, we declined because we didn't have the entertainment in front of us. So what happened? Our connecting flight did have the entertainment and they weren't passing out the headphones. So I guess the lesson there is take whatever they offer. Just take it, because you never know when it's going to come in handy. The next thing about this row is the window or lack of a window. You're only going to get that little tiny window that's in the door, and that is a big space away from the person who would be sitting in the second seat or what would normally be the center seat. So you can't look out the window. You can't open and close the window. It's just like a little porthole that is far, far away from you. And if you're one of those people that like to look out the window, you want to see where you're flying, you like to watch during takeoffs and landings, you're not really going to be able to do that from that seat. Now, if you're in the bulkhead, there's no seat in front of you, so guess what? You can't stow your bag underneath the seat, which means it's not going to be readily accessible to you. But even if you're in the exit row, having your bag that's stowed under the seat in front of you is not going to be very practical because that seat is really far away. So if you're used to flying, just reaching down and grabbing your bag, then pushing it back under the seat, yeah, you're going to be in for a little more work. You're going to have to unbuckle your seat, get out of your seat, maybe get on your hands and knees to grab your bag, open it up, and then do the same thing to put it back. So the practical access to your bag, whether you're in bulkhead or an exit row, is just not going to be there. It's not going to be as easy to access that carry-on. Remember, you get two items, one carry-on, one personal item. And that personal item is supposed to be able to fit underneath the seat in front of you. I only carry one carry-on, so it's stowed above and I don't worry about it. But for those of you who have that second bag, the backpack, the purse, and you like to access it throughout the flight, be aware of that. Here's something that is really annoying, and it's the person behind you. So if you are in the second seat in, or what would be the middle seat, there's that nice big space alongside you, and sometimes people think this is great. I love this, except the problem is that space is usually infringed upon in a very annoying and irritating way by the people behind you. The people could be sticking their legs with their big old feet right in front of you. They could be pushing their bags around. I'll tell you, that open space, they will take possession of it, the people that are sitting behind you. And they consider that to be theirs because it's wide open all the way up until, two rows, the seat that's in front of you, but next to the seat in front of you, actually. So they're going to take possession of that and that whole space. And like I said, people tend to want to store things next to where you're sitting and put their feet there, which can be really an annoyance. So that's something that you should be aware of. Now, if you're traveling with a companion, for example, this recent trip I was with my wife, oftentimes we like to raise that armrest behind us and it gives you a little more room. It's almost like a love seat, right, if you were in your home. But with these seats, these little box seats, that is a permanent armrest. So you can't even get that little extra bit of space to put up that armrest if you are sharing space with the person next to you. What I'm about to say next doesn't really pertain to the 737, but in the A321, those exit row seats are right across or right behind the bathrooms. And that can be an annoyance because people can be lining up and they're right next to you. And that can be through the whole trip. And sometimes the bathrooms do not emit, shall we say, a pleasant aroma. So that can be an annoyance, just that they are in a close proximity to the bathrooms. Now, in the 737s, the bathrooms are near the front of the plane, the back of the plane, so that exit row isn't going to be affected by that. You might be wondering, Mark, if you're so smart, why did you wind up in that seat in the first place? And that is a great question. And what it boils down to is I got sloppy, I got lazy. I did know better, but we booked our flight late, and when I checked for seats, there just were not a lot of seats. There were a lot of single seats, and of course my wife and I wanted to sit together, and I like to sit in aisle, and most of the seats that were together were middle and window. And so I selected the only aisle option that had 2 seats together, and that was the exit row. Would I have been better off selecting a window seat and a center seat? I think so. I think so, but I just do not like being in a window seat. It's not my preference. I like being in the aisle. It gives me a little more room. So I guess you have to decide what trade-off are you willing to put up with for your flight. But at the very least, I'll have some information to go by. I am going to recommend Seat Guru. Seat Guru is a website, and if you put in your flight, it will tell you what kind of plane you're going to be on. It'll show you the seat map. It's usually accurate, and it will give you its opinion on what a good seat is and a bad seat. It doesn't go into the detail that I just went over. And let's face it, all people have a different preference. What I think is a great seat, you may think is a horrible seat, and vice versa. So all I can do is tell you why I think it's a bad seat, and then you can make your decision from there. So I hope this was helpful. As always, I encourage you to like and share the videos. Leave your comments down below. If you haven't already, please subscribe by clicking my face in the corner, and don't forget to ring that bell icon. That way you'll know when I post new videos. Thanks again. I'm Mark, and this is the Average Me Channel.